Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Terry Henney, and we're broadcasting today from the Great Lakes Crop Summit at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort here in Mount Pleasant. We're here because representatives of the Rummel Agency are here talking and listening to what folks have to say. So, without further ado, why don't we bring Craig Voorhees in? Craig, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Terry. Glad to be here today.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. And back in Frankenmuth, where it's snowing, and they've got Snowfest going on right now. We've got Jake and Justin. Guys, good morning. How are you this morning?
Morning, Terry.
Morning,
Doing
Terry.
well.
Real good.
Well, I tell you, we kicked off the beginning of the year in grand style. 40, 45 degrees, no snow, no frost in the ground. There were actually some people out there, I'm sure you guys were talking to, that were wondering, is the ground even going to freeze?
Oh, yeah, that was a topic earlier yesterday here at the summit. Some of the folks were talking about they were amazed that they were still doing tiling this time of year out in the field. So I don't know. Next week that may change looking out the window here. But yeah, that was a topic of a few sidebar conversations yesterday.
Jake and Justin, any conversation you've had with folks, has weather been kind of the headline right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's showing up. Winter just showed up yesterday, it seems like, and it was kind of just odd with walking outside and dirt and mud.
And Jake, as far as you're concerned, what are you running into right now with producers? Because I'm sure everybody is the topic of conversation is before you know it, we're going to be working in the fields, at least getting some work done around right now.
Yeah, it's certainly been a different kind of winter. So whether or not folks are trying to get a little bit ahead, and use it, or still recover from the harvest is to be seen. We'll find out. I have with some family and friends, we have a maple syrup operation on a piece of property outside of Frankenmuth, and from the looks of the weather, we might have been able to actually collect some sap 2 months early this season with how things were going. So it's just been really interesting.
I'm glad you brought that up because we did one of these with Greg Rummel back a couple of years ago or so, and that was the topic of conversation was maple syrup. And I was always kind of curious if weather like this with 40s and it never froze at night, what's that doing to the maple trees right now?
Well, at this time of year, that's a great question because usually that's March weather, and you need sunlight for a quality sap, which is why in the past year the syrup production across North America wasn't great because if you remember, we didn't have a ton of sunny days in March. So if you have March type of weather in January, I'm sure the sap runs. It's not something we've done. We're a pretty small operation, but to the large producers, I'm sure maybe even the southern Midwest states like Ohio and Indiana, Pennsylvania, maybe they had opportunities to do it.
Well, I'm sure they did because they had some pretty mild weather as well. Craig Voorhees, you're here in Mount Pleasant. You had the opportunity to take in a number of meetings yesterday. Were there any that stood out for you that you're going to carry that knowledge along to producers as you talk to them here in 2023?
Well, Terry, all the sessions here are always good and very interesting. I think you take a little bit from each one. The two keynote speakers, who one was yesterday morning, one was this morning, very powerful speakers, very educated folks. Lots of global information in these morning sessions, lots of talk about China, Brazil, Ukraine, and what that's all going to, the landscape of all of that's going to look like going forward. That's always helpful information. It'll be interesting to see if what they're saying comes true in the next few years, but it is good information. The breakout sessions yesterday afternoon, I was in one, which was all about ESG, which we all should know what that is, but a lot of us don't. The environmental social governance, which a lot of companies are implementing, large multinational companies implementing. They're addressing climate change. They want to be carbon neutral, all of that stuff, and how they're planning on getting there, and how that's going to affect producers here in Michigan, because it will. Another one that I sat in yesterday was about protecting farmland. Neat statistic here. I'm going to cheat and look at my notes, but from the Census Bureau, from 2012 to 2017 in Michigan, we lost 4 acres of farm ground per hour for that 5-year period. So we have to protect dirt. We know that we can't make any more of it. One of the fastest growing counties in Michigan is Ottawa County. A lot of fruit and vegetable production over there, and they are losing land at a very high rate to developments for both housing and industry other than farm. So we've got to be very conscious of that, keep an eye on it, and make sure that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot by overdeveloping our farm ground.
Now, Justin, back in Frankenmuth, you're new to the Rummel Agency. My guess is there's quite a few producers in your coverage area that are aging. They're getting up there. Are they talking at all about a family plan moving forward? Or are a lot of these operations maybe ending because there's no one else to come along in the family?
I think you see a little bit of both. As you were saying, the family, some of them are getting out of it because the parents were successful enough, sent them off to college, and they went on to do other things other than farm. Some are actually doing, other aspects than working on the family farm, but you do see a lot that are still continuing on the legacy. And that is the neatest part, I think, about, like you said, I'm new. I started in June. I worked in a family business for 20 years. It was a dry cleaning business, kind of ended here with COVID and everything like that. But it's really neat to sit at a kitchen table or in a shop, and you're not just helping people with their business or even with their home. It's continuing on their legacy, and you still see a lot of that. And that's just one of the greatest parts of this job.
Now, as far as you're concerned, Jake, one of the programs that's going to be up today, and it was there last year, was the program regarding the cyber technology. And more producers are getting involved with that, if anything, because they have to. And a lot of times when you're involved in something and you really don't want to, it takes a little bit more education. Is that where you're seeing your job is at the agency?
Yeah, in terms of cyber, it's still an incredibly fascinating fascinating risk. What it does, what it can impose on a business and a farm. Heck, even school districts and other governmental entities. But yeah, there is something to be said for kind of getting into the subjects like cyber, where the average consumer, I mean, myself included, is a little bit afraid of that unknown. It's not something we can see. Like, if a fire starts, we all smell the smoke and see the flame. But when a cyber attack occurs, you may not know. You may not know for months. So what are the controls and the precautions that we can go to in order to really minimize our exposure especially as farmers, business owners alike are becoming more reliant on technology, more reliant on wireless connections, email, digital payment processing. The list goes on. So,
What are the programs that the agency has where you can implement some things for businesses in general?
yeah, absolutely. We've got, in my mind, we've got two great options. The first option is kind of a bolt-on uh, coverage to a standard commercial policy that can provide some great coverages, both in the event that you suffer loss of your data or uh, your cyber attack causes harm to another because their information is out there, right? So we call those first and third party because you, as the business owner, is the first party that suffers damage, and the claimant, the third party, is the one whose information was released to the public because of that cyber invasion. The second option is a complete standalone cyber policy, just like you would have a complete standalone workers' compensation or auto policy. And that is specifically designed for a business or a farm with more activity online, more digital payment, more records, more customers. And that is really designed with the proper coverages in the event of a serious cyber invasion, where there is time spent from a forensic side to discover where it occurred, how it occurred, and then the recovery costs, the potential liability, and defense costs. So it's really, really comprehensive on that standalone side.
So from what I'm gathering, you just don't walk in and talk to somebody for 15 minutes and then decide what you're going to do.
Yeah, no. We really value the time that we get to spend with our clients because it's necessary in order for us to really do our job well. And I think our process, is it's more than the 15 minutes to save you 15%, but it's a relationship that starts from the beginning with a true intent for us as producers, as account managers here at the Rummel Agency, to not only protect a person's home, or not only protect their house, but their home and their legacy, their future. And if there's options, if there's conversations we need to have to educate our clients so they can make informed decisions, that's what really I think gets us out of bed in the morning.
Craig, as far as here at Crop Summit, I know that you've had a chance to talk to a lot of people about many different things, and of course, three of our big organizations are behind this: the wheat growers, the corn growers, and our soybean growers. And from what I understand, you had the opportunity to talk a little bit with a few soybean growers, and in particular one. Who do you have along with you right now?
Well, with us today, joining us, I'll get out of the chair and she can take over, is Allison Morse. Her and her family farm in Birch Run. They're very valued customers of ours also. We appreciate that very much. And Allison is also part of the Soybean Association, relatively new to that position, I believe. So we've asked her to join us today and just fill us in a little bit about what she does and give us some more info on the Soybean Association. So I will get out of this chair and let her have a seat.
There you go. We'll let her get situated. Oh, you dressed for the occasion, Allie. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
How's everything going on the farm, Allie?
Things are moving right along. Like Craig said, we farm in Bertrand. I work with my dad. We grow about 3,000 acres of corn, soybeans, wheat, and sugar beets. We also have a Pioneer seed business as well as a Pivot Bio business. So there's always something always something going on, at least at the farm.
So you're working on the provider side and you're working on the consumer side.
Correct.
Is what you're telling me.
Yes. Yep.
How does an agency like the Rummel agency fit into your business plan?
Well, I think you have to surround yourself by people that you trust when you have a business. And, my dad's worked really closely with Craig for a while now. It's one of those things where we're in an industry where people are valued. They bring a special added value to your farm, and you just connect yourself with the right people and take some of that guesswork out.
I guess the key is you have enough things on your plate. If you can trust somebody else to take care of some of those things, it really helps, doesn't it?
Yes.
Now, let's talk about the other shoe that you're wearing.
Yes.
Craig
So
mentioned that you're involved with the Soybean Association. Tell us a little bit about that.
yes, so I am on the board of directors for the Michigan Soybean Association. We host our annual meeting here every year, and then following that, we have a reorganizational meeting. I'm secretary of the board. So I guess the two different committees that we have is one is the Soybean Committee and one is the Soybean Association. And the Soybean Committee directs the soybean checkoff, whereas the Soybean Association works to advocate for farmers, for their members here in Lansing and at Washington, D.C.
Now, as far as things with the Soybean Association, they're not subject to a referendum right now, but soybean producers do contribute a good amount of dollars to the association for sponsoring a program like this, the Crop Summit.
Absolutely. Yep. So as well as some of the other things that we're doing with the Soybean Association, there's a yield contest that we put on for our growers. We also have, this is actually our third year. Right now, we developed a scholarship fund for our members, their children, and their grandchildren, which is now available online at misoy.org. The applications are up until March 1st. So we're trying to kind of breathe some new life into our younger generation to keep them involved in ag and to keep them involved with Michigan soybeans. So we do a lot of fun stuff to bring awareness and promote soybeans.
As far as sessions here at Crop Summit, I know there's a lot of them regarding soybeans. Is there one in particular or two that jump right out at you that soybean producers should know about?
Yeah, so I think Craig touched on the one earlier from yesterday, which was the ESG, the environmental social governance. That is going to be coming whether people like it or not. So it's probably a good idea to be informed, stay in front of, understand where our food is coming from, where it's going, how it's being marketed. A lot of these companies are looking for, carbon neutral footprints, and ag is what they're really honing in on. So that one was a great session yesterday. And I know they've had a couple sessions regarding high yields managements for soybeans. I think there was two yesterday, just on growing soybeans alone. So there's a lot of good information here for people to gather and see how they can incorporate that on their own farms.
As of right now, with the price of soybeans on the market, is your farming operation able to show a profit?
Yes, we are profitable making soybeans. You know, the fertilizer markets have gotten pretty crazy the last, couple of years, especially this past year. People see that, farmers are making a ton of money because the markets are going up. But what they don't understand is that rent's going up, the cost to go to the field, whether it be equipment, whether it be things as simple as oil and different types of lubricants for tractors, the fertilizer, all the inputs that it takes to grow a crop have all increased dramatically. But at the same time, we are still making strides that way.
And obviously, one of those costs has to be insurance. How important is it to be dealing with someone who has a multiple number of insurances available that they can propose to you?
Well, I think it kind of makes or breaks you. I mean, everybody has a different opinion on insurance. I mean, as far as health insurance goes, it's one of those things where you pay into it, and you hope that you don't ever have to use it or you have an issue. But when that day comes, it's awfully nice to have in your back pocket, especially if you get a devastating crop year. You can rely on having that crop insurance to help you out.
Now, as far as the cyber part of what we've been talking about so far, has that really registered to you? Is that important to you right now? Have you entertained any thoughts of investigating that a little bit?
Well, I know with our seed business, we have what they call MFA, which is multi-factor authentication. Whether we're on our phone, whether we're on an iPad, a laptop, we have to enter, passcodes and passwords, and the passwords change every few months. So, it's hard enough for us to keep track of what our password is. So you think, golly, how do these people figure out how to hack into something when I can't even remember what it is? But, everything is going that way. So it's there whether you like it or not. And it's something that you need to be aware of.
One thing that's coming up this year is the Farm Bill, and it will obviously affect you as a grower, and it very easily could be affecting the insurance industry as well. Justin, do you hear very many people talk about a Farm Bill right now?
To be honest with you, I haven't been out as much as new as I am, so I haven't heard as much. That might be a better question for Craig right now. I'm just getting my feet wet, so things like that might be a little bit over my head right now.
Well, your toes are in the water right
Yeah,
now.
well,
How does it feel?
it feels good. I mean, I actually have some farm blood in me. My grandfather is in the Michigan Farmers Hall of Fame. So I think the family is all kind of seeing that I'm coming around to everything. But it's good. It's just, I'm not going to lie, walking in here and starting in June, it was like starting fifth grade at a whole new school. It was a little scary, but everybody here has been great, and the knowledge here that everybody is giving me is fantastic, whether it be Jake, Craig, John, and Ann is my savior some days. Donna, Jackie, it's just great. Everybody here is fantastic, and the help that I get and the knowledge that I get on a daily basis is amazing.
Allison, as far as the Farm Bill goes, obviously you said Lansing and you said Washington, D.C. The association is involved. Where do you go from here right now? Because you're going to get pretty busy here pretty soon.
Yes, we are. Yeah. So, we're constantly working with, our local reps. We actually put on legislative farm tours where local members can actually host to bring out their local legislative folks and talk about some of the struggles and some of the issues that we're facing at a ground level. We also encourage them to come out in the spring and in the fall to ride around in combines, to kind of have that one-on-one, connection, where we can have a conversation. So there's lots of interaction between growers and legislative folks in our area and in Lansing. We do a lunch on the lawn, which will be held next month in Lansing. So that's another point of touch that we have with those guys and gals. So yeah, we're constantly working at, talking about biodiesel, how that fits into the programs, all sorts of topics, and just trying to inform because, to be honest, there's a lot of people in Lansing that didn't grow up on a farm, may have drove by a farm, but have no idea what's growing in that field. So there's a lot of work to be done, especially with having new people come in this past year. So, yeah.
Well, Allie, you folks, you and your dad have done a wonderful job in educating a lot of folks. I just hope that you can reach more because you really do a good, thorough job of helping us. Because as you say, as the years go by, our legislators are getting more removed from farm and from agriculture. They need to be educated. So we really appreciate your effort. Allie, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you being here. You take care, all right?
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Thank you. Justin, Jake, Allie is mentioning a little bit about, working with people and having to re-educate people. Is this something that you're running into, especially you, Jake? Because, what generation now are you of the Rummel family?
Fourth generation. My great grandfather Emil started the business in 1950, and we are never been more dedicated to securing our clients' tomorrows as we were back then in 1950, excuse me, 70 years ago. So.
Well, and again, it's an educational process for you, even if you're born into the business. And I think that helps you a little bit as far as working with people who are a little bit further removed from the operation that mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and great grandma, grandpa might have instituted back years ago. Because Craig Voorhees, we are in an area where heritage, where family has carried on businesses for years, and it's constantly evolving all the time. There's something new coming up all the time, and you have to deal with it when it comes to protecting those operations.
Right, Terry. We do focus on that. We like working with the multi-generational farms. We're a multi-generational company as well, and I make sure to tell folks that and let them know that that still is appreciated by many people out there today, even though we seem to be, more digital and maybe not as in front of people as often as we used to be. It's still good to know your background. And Allie kind of touched on it too, and I want to thank her for joining us as well. Mentioning educating legislators and stuff. Several speakers over the last couple of days have ended their presentation with, make sure you tell your story, your ag story, because we have so many people getting further and further away from the farms, as she said. And that's not just the folks in Washington and Lansing. That's the folks in the cities that are buying the groceries and are having an effect on that whole ESG movement that we keep bringing up. That's something we're going to have to deal with, like Allie said, whether we like it or not. I'm not a super fan of it, but we're going to have to deal with it. So, make sure everybody out there is telling your story, telling your farm story, and we have to tell our story at the agency. We've got a good one. We've been in business for soon to be 73 years, and we're looking forward to that plus a whole lot more. and we're working hard to keep everybody happy and do our best. And we have to tell our story also.
Well, and I tell you guys, it's a privilege to be working with you at the Rummel Agency, because this is one way that hopefully we can educate people and at least let them know how important different facets of their business and their lives are, and that there are businesses out there that are designed to help. And the Rummel Agency, as you said, Craig, has been doing it for a long time, and it's not going to be too many more years. We're going to be celebrating 3/4 of a century.
Yes, that's right. In 2025. So hopefully, we wanted to do something big in 2020 for our 70th, but that little virus thing made us change our plans. So hopefully that'll be just a tiny little dot in the rearview mirror in a couple of years, and we can do something fun and celebrate that 3/4 of a century mark, because that's a big deal.
Jake, Justin, thanks so much for joining us over in Frankenmuth. We really appreciate it. You guys take care. Craig Voorhees with the Rummel Agency here at the Crop Summit. Thanks a lot again for sharing your thoughts. That just about wraps things up from Crop Summit. A lot more coming up. The farm program will be coming up at 11:30, and we'll be talking a little bit more about what's going on here. Everybody have a great day and enjoy the snow, okay?